All right. Welcome to the first ever live episode of the Creamsicle Chronicle podcast. My name is JT Olson. With me is Garrett Ballard. Garrett, how are you this fine evening?
I'm doing pretty well, JT. Excited for the first live episode. Got to get those tweets out real quick, making sure everyone tunes in. Everyone knows uh, that we're talking Bucks football.
Yeah, let the people know. And I'll let the people know where they can find us. You can follow us at Twitter, myself at Icewater Olson. You can follow Garrett at NFL Ballard. That's Ballard.
Yep.
And you can find our work at the Around the Block Network.
Let's go. Okay, well, do we want to see if anyone pops in? Do we just want to roll with it?
Yeah, let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, let's go.
So, before we kind of talk our position group tonight, because we've been focusing on the draft the last couple of weeks, where the Bucks are going to be looking, there was some significant NFL news about a receiver today, and the Bucks have been linked to several key receivers that are probably going to go in the first round this year. One of them has been Treylon Burks. And I think we've always said, Treylon Burks, he's going to fill that Deebo Samuel role, and he's going to be that Deebo Samuel kind of player. And today, Deebo Samuel requested a trade. So let me ask you this, Garrett. Would you trade the 27th overall pick straight up for Deebo Samuel?
If it was just 27, yeah, in a heartbeat. That guy, that's a special receiver who can impact the game in a multitude of ways at a very high level. I don't think there's a team in the world, and maybe except, I don't know, maybe if you're picking top 5, maybe you don't part with that pick, but that is a player who is completely worth a first-round pick.
Yeah, I was kind of going through in my head today, like, how far up the ladder would I go? Like, if I were the Packers, would I trade 22 straight up for Deebo? I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
If I were the Saints, would I trade 19? I would definitely do it. If I were the Saints, would I trade 15? I'd still do it. And I think that would make both of those teams a legitimate threat to the Bucks because Deebo is that good a player.
For sure. I mean, we kind of saw what Cooper Kupp was able to do to this defense, and while it's not exactly the same type of skill set, Deebo Samuel provides that that ability to just make you miss in the open field, dodge out of tackles, and just make spectacular plays in the open field that 99% of the receivers in the NFL cannot do. Kind of talking what you were saying in the draft, if there's a player that's going to be able to do that, it's Treylon Burks. So say you're sitting there at 27, the 49ers present you with a little package that includes Deebo Samuel, it's Deebo Samuel for a little package from the Bucks. Say it's like 27, a player and a fifth. I mean, the player, it's going to be more than that if we're being realistic. Like, this is a player who is at the top of the league on his rookie contract. He's going to get a big deal, but he's currently on his rookie contract, and that is invaluable. So if you're able to just trade straight up a first-round pick, that's a home run for just about anybody.
Yeah, I could see. It's been such a crazy offseason. So many big trades have been made. And I think this only adds to that fire. A team like the Saints, a team like the Packers, a team like the Eagles, who all have multiple first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should all be in play for this. And I think this will only bolster what was a playoff roster for 2 out of 3 of those teams. And the Saints were kind of right on the fringe without star quarterback Jameis Winston for half.
Yeah, I mean, if there is a bright side for Bucks fans about this, the odds that the Bucks are going to get Deebo Samuel are slim to none. But I think if there is a bright side, it is the fact that the Jets were very much in on Tyreek Hill, and they have that same San Francisco coaching staff who saw Deebo Samuel firsthand. And they have, out of those teams that we talked about, the highest picks. They have 4 and 10. So if they want Deebo Samuel, they're going to be able to get him. So.
Yeah, and if I remember right, 10 was discussed for that Tyreek Hill trade.
It was.
I don't think it was part of their final offer, but I know there were so many conversations had that came together really quickly.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it was just like the trade value chart had them offering all of their day 2 picks and not a first round pick, whereas the Dolphins offered that first round pick and Kansas City ended up taking it. So,
And if that was the package for Tyreek Hill, I mean, I think the Jets could offer something similar and be in play for Deebo. Again,
I
I
would
think the
agree.
Chiefs could offer pick 30 and then a second or even a first next year and have a better offer. And I think that's fairly realistic.
Yep.
Or the Saints could offer 15 straight up, and I'd take that over 2 early second round picks. But if the Jets want to dangle 10 out there or 10 and then like a third back for with Deebo, I think that's a really good offer for both teams.
I would agree. Yeah. I mean, Deebo's one heck of a player. Was a top 3 wide receiver in football last year. Whoever gets him is getting a phenomenal player and should definitely try and lock him up for the long term.
All right. Speaking of long-term talent, let's jump into some of these prospects the Bucs are going to be looking at next week. The draft is flying up on us here.
8 days away from the time we're recording this.
Oh man, I'm starting to get stressed out. I got my Huddle Report mock draft invitation yesterday, and now it's starting to feel real.
Oh
And
yeah.
starting to put things together. It's like, man, we have so many mixed opinions on this class, and it's time to put it all in stone pretty quick here.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. I always love the draft. I don't know if you're like me, but I was just talking to some people. I was like, starting Monday is the annual week-long viewing of Draft Day once a day until Thursday. Monday through Thursday, Draft Day, the movie on repeat. It's my favorite time of year. As Bucks fans, we specifically like I grew up just pretty much following what the Bucks were doing in the draft because we were never able to succeed in anything else. So I am the draft is near and dear to my heart as it is for probably a lot of other Bucks fans. But no matter where we're picking, it's always a good time.
So let's talk about some of those prospects we could be picking at 27. And today is exciting for me. One, because we're going to be focusing on trench play, which is where I played when I played.
Love D-line, man. It's the best.
And two, I think this is the biggest need for the Bucks, and I think it's the most likely direction they go in come draft day.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I mean, kind of just looking at the other positions we talked about and then matching that up with interviews from Jason Light. They seem to like how they're standing at pretty much all the positions except probably tight end and D-line. And there's not going to be a tight end that they're going to take in the first round. So that leaves D-line.
So let's talk about some of these guys. And I want to do a shameless plug first.
Yeah.
I put out an article yesterday that narrowed down what I think is going to be the Bucks' big board, the very short list. And 2 of those guys were defensive tackles.
That was a good article, by the way. I read it.
Oh, did you read that?
Yeah, it was a good article. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Y'all should check it out for sure.
And I looked historically at what Jason Light prioritizes in the draft, specifically when it comes to athleticism. And he hasn't drafted a player with a relative athletic score below 9 since Jameis Winston.
Yep.
So that's 6 consecutive picks of 9 or higher scores with the Raz. So he prioritizes premier athletes.
First round. Yes, first round picks. Yep.
So that only left about 6 guys who the Bucks have been linked to. And one of those 6 was Jordan Davis, who I think we can start with here. Yeah. I think we'd both agree he's not going to be on the Bucks board.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like he's too similar to Vita Vea. Going to be a heck of a player for somebody because Vita Vea is a heck of a player for us. But having 2 players that are like that with very limited pass rush upside on the interior is not the greatest strategy, in my opinion.
And I remember a while, it was probably like 10 years ago, the Vikings did something like that. I think they had, it was the Williams brothers, and they're not actually brothers, but I think it was like Pat Williams and Kevin Williams, and they were just both hogs in the middle, and they were just a monster pair. And in theory, I love that idea of just an absolute 700-pound brick wall on the Bucs defensive line. But then you look at the practicality of it, where Vita Vea is kind of developing more pass rush, but he's not a great pass rusher. He makes everyone else around him better, but he himself is not a great pass rusher.
Yep.
Jordan Davis has shown very little as a pass rusher. And
I think even less than Vea coming out of college.
Yes, definitely agree. And that's not to say I don't think he's the best defensive tackle in this class, because he is just a ridiculous physical specimen.
It's insane.
It's wow.
It's mind-boggling, honestly. It's just every time I think about it, I mean, how can you be that big and be that athletic and move that quick? It's absurd.
Whenever I think of Jordan Davis, I think of a tweet that Trevor Sikkema put out there, and it's just Dr. Strange saying, "Oh yeah, you're much more of a Thanos."
Yeah.
And that totally captures Jordan Davis. He's just not of this world.
Yep.
But he's not going to be a Buccaneer. He's, like you said, he's too similar to Vita Vea. And as much as
he won't be on the board anyway, but
no, he won't. I don't think he will. I think he's going top 15.
I would agree.
I think after that, every defensive tackle is feasibly an option in terms of will be available.
Oh, will be available for sure. Yeah. I think he's the only one that's clear-cut not going to be there.
I think the next in the pecking order is probably the top of the Bucs wish list. And that's Jordan Davis's teammate, Devontae Wyatt.
Definitely. I would agree.
These two couldn't be much more different physically, which Devontae Wyatt is a great athlete as well. So they're not that much different, but he's 4 inches shorter and like 40 pounds lighter than Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
I think he's 6'3", 304.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And you watch him on tape, and he is athletic. Like,
he's explosive. He can move. He can move.
Yeah, he's the kind of defensive tackle. He'll run 10 yards downfield, make a tackle, backside, force a fumble. Like, he is always moving.
It's really fun to watch. I mean, like you said, it's pretty much the foil to Jordan Davis, which would mean it's pretty much the foil to Vita Vea if the Bucs were to pick him. Smaller, way more explosive, and he knows how to get into the backfield. Like, that is, if you're looking for a gap penetrating interior defensive lineman, your pick would be Devontae Wyatt.
Where does he rank for you in terms of defensive tackles? Is he your top option for the Bucs? Is he your top rated defensive tackle? Where does he fall for you?
He's not my top rated tackle. My top rated it's Jordan Davis, but he is my top rated option for the Bucs if they were to go at the position. I know you included. There's a lot of love for Travis Jones from UConn, and I think he's a phenomenal player. He's my overall DT3 in the class, IDL3 in the class. But I also think he's a nose tackle. I think he's a bit more situated to play that Vita Vea role for a team. And while he might have a bit more upside than Jordan Davis, I don't really think the Bucs are going to be looking for that. I think they're really going to be looking for like a pure gap penetrating, pass rush focused defensive tackle.
And there's no question that Wyatt is more that style of player. He's quicker, he's more agile. If you want to do stunts with him and do twists, Wyatt is that guy.
I mean, it makes sense too. He's the smallest of the three. So it just correlates. But yeah, Wyatt for sure.
So he's your top pick for the Bucs in terms of defensive tackles, and I think he's the Buccaneers' top-rated pick for the Bucs in terms of defensive tackle.
Yeah.
He's not mine.
Is yours Travis Jones?
It is Travis Jones.
Yeah.
And I'm really big on Travis Jones. I actually have him higher than Wyatt on my board.
I know a lot of people do.
But he's really good too.
He is good.
And you're right. He played nose tackle at UConn, which, one, UConn, not an impressive football school, not impressive competition. Two, like we said with Jordan Davis, the Bucs aren't looking for a nose tackle. So I think that's part of why they haven't been connected to him, even though he tested really, really well athletically, just like Davis, just like Wyatt did. I think he can be more than a nose tackle in the NFL. I think he's kind of there out of necessity at UConn because he's so much bigger, stronger than everyone else around him. I think he can play 3-tech pretty effectively, and there's some projection there because he hasn't done it a ton, but when he has done it, he's been effective at it. And he's not as quick as Wyatt. His moves are a little slower, but he's stronger at the point of attack. He's going to be a better run defender right away, probably for his whole career.
Probably.
I see the flashes of pass rush. And you watch the Clemson game, he made Swiss cheese of that offensive line. He was just throwing guards around.
Yeah, that was a good game.
And you saw his athleticism flash. Like, he was beating guards off the ball, shooting into the backfield at times.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Clemson versus UConn, where it's Travis Jones and your local high school gym teacher on the D-line. So he was getting all of the attention there. Unlike Wyatt, who is the other guy on Georgia's defensive line, and they have another really good defensive tackle and Trayvon Walker. So there's definitely a difference in the way you kind of look at these two players in terms of how they're being evaluated, just in the opportunities they get to win one-on-one reps.
Yeah.
The other thing that makes me a little concerned in this Jones versus Wyatt conversation, Travis Jones had more sacks than Devontae Wyatt did last year. In fact, Travis Jones had 4.5 sacks in 2021. That's as many as Wyatt had in his entire 4-year Georgia career almost. 5 career sacks at Georgia.
That's definitely a warranted concern. That's something that I kind of noticed when I was just like looking quickly at his stats. But yeah, that's 100% something that teams could be like, So.
Yeah, and the last thing we want to promote here is box score scouting.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly in the trenches where the box score does not tell the story at all.
Yeah, but I mean, that also, but also when you're known for your ability to knife through offensive lines, if you see low numbers like that, you can take, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of note it down and then go look, see if it was a product of him actually just not being good or just him just not getting to the quarterback enough.
Right. And I definitely don't think it's a product of him not being good. He gets there. He's disruptive.
Yeah.
But not as disruptive as I wish he was.
Yeah. I definitely understand that. And when you're playing next to the players that he was playing next to, you definitely wish that he had more production. Do you know what his TFL numbers were off the top of your head?
I think it was 7.
7 in his career or just last year?
Just last year.
Okay, so that's good. Could be better also. Like you said, he's not going to be a huge run defender, so the ideally a lot of those TFLs are going to come from sacks in the future. But I mean, it's just I'm just trying to picture whether or not the projection with Jones is just it's tough. I don't know.
Yeah, it takes some vision from a nose tackle getting double, triple teamed regularly.
At UConn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then moving him into a role he didn't primarily play and then getting more one-on-one looks.
Yeah. I will say, if the pick ends up being Travis Jones, I will not be unhappy by any means. I'll be cautious, but I will not be unhappy because I think he is a heck of a football player, and I think he's a very, very talented defensive tackle. But I will definitely be cautious. That's the word I'll say.
And I would say the same thing about Wyatt. Not so much cautious. It would be more, okay, this wasn't my dream scenario, but this is good.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another player who I'm intrigued by, and I think the Bucs are intrigued by, but he's a little bit of the same kind of projection that Travis Jones is. And that's Oklahoma's Perrion Winfrey. He is not the build of Travis Jones. He looks like more of a 3-tech, more of a penetrating kind of guy. But he played primarily nose tackle at Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, to be honest. Because he's – let me find his – because he does not have the size of a nose tackle for sure.
No, he barely has the size of a 3-tech. I think he's sub 290.
Yeah, so this was – when was this? This was April 12th, so this was after the combine. It was, where are you? 6'4", 290.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
I
not
think
a
at the
nose
combine he
tackle.
was 285. So
Yeah. So that's he's gonna run fast, but like he's tiny.
and the thing is, I don't even think he ran that fast. I don't think he tested super well.
I think he ran like a 4.9.
That's not terrible.
Not terrible. I'm gonna confirm that, but yeah, you can keep going.
The one physical aspect that stands out about him that I really like is he has long arms.
Mm.
I think 35 and a half inch
35
arms.
and a quarter inch arms, yeah.
So 6'4", long arms, he can keep offensive linemen out of his chest.
Yes.
And even though he wasn't always the greatest run defender at Oklahoma, when you factor in that he's playing nose tackle at 290, 280, somewhere in that range, you don't expect him to be the greatest run defender because he's really playing out of position.
Yeah. So just real quick, measured in at the combine at 6'3" and 5/8, 290, 35 and a quarter inch arms, and run a 4.89. So
Okay. Was that? I think that's the only thing he did at the combine was the 40.
yeah, correct.
Okay.
I mean, those are good numbers, but like can't really like expect much more from someone who's 290, right? Like I mean, 290 is small for a 3 tech. And looking at kind of how the Bucks, I mean, we had Sue there for the last how many years? 3, 4 years? Was it? I don't know. One of the he's not 290. Obviously he's not the pass rusher he once was, but I think that's kind of going to be the mold the Bucks are going to look to fill, is kind of that similar size Ndamukong Suh, but with a bit more juice, like Ndamukong Suh 8 years ago. So Perrion Winfrey, I think, is a interesting player because of he's kind of like a tweener, you know. So I don't really know what his projection is right now.
What do you think of him on the Bucks playing that 3 tech role? Do you think the Bucks would be interested in him? I'm pretty confident they've met with him, but if he's on their radar, how do you feel about him?
I would expect a lot of D tackles to be on their radar. Like they're going to do their due diligence on pretty much all of them. But in the grand scheme of things, I feel like he's not going to be super, super high on their board.
Do you think 27 is in play?
For Winfrey?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't.
I think if he would be.
I would say 60.
I would agree.
Yeah. He's definitely not a first-round player.
No, I would agree with that as well. I think 60 would be the dream there.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about other options, guys like Daxton Hill at 27, guys like Zion Johnson. I think we both really like those options.
Yeah.
If the Bucks went in one of those directions at 27 and Perrion Winfrey at 60, I think that's a home run draft right there.
Yeah, I'd be pretty happy with that. Have you watched a name I kind of want to bring up real quick? I don't necessarily know if 60. Have you watched Fedarian Mathis from Alabama?
I've watched him a little. He has failed to stand out to me anytime I've watched him.
Yeah, he's definitely a day 3 guy for me. He's just, I think he has like all the technique down. I just don't think he's very explosive. Like I think he's kind of just like slow, but
yeah, he looks kind of just like a space filler when I see him.
Yeah, that could be the case. I know that he's like a really, really experienced starter at Alabama ever since he's been there. Really knows how to beat offensive linemen. Like he can cross chop, swim move, all that really, really well. So if the Bucks are looking for someone to kind of come in and just maybe fill the gap for a little bit, kind of take a depth role in a couple of years, if they decide to upgrade, Fedarian Mathis could be a guy they kind of target on day 3.
Well, since you brought up day 3 depth kind of guys, there's a name who I really like, and he would not be an Ndamukong Suh replacement. He would be a Vita Vea backup. He would be Who? Steve McClendon replacement.
There you go.
Tyrese Stevenson from Tulsa is a guy I really liked in the process
Interesting.
last year.
Interesting.
And
I haven't watched him a ton, just a little bit though. But
he's fun. He reminds me when I watch him, he reminds me of who was that nose tackle out of Clemson? He's playing for Cincinnati now, and his name escapes me.
oh,
I want to say it's BJ Hill, but I know that's not right.
that's not right.
And
Wait,
it's frustrating that I can't remember his name because I really liked him coming out of college.
it's not Dexter Lawrence, is it?
No,
He's on the Giants. He's really good, but yeah, I can't think of it.
I will have it momentarily.
Mhm.
But I think he was drafted in the 7th round, and I didn't understand it because he was a really good space-eating nose tackle from a big-time program, and he was just really dominant when he was on the field. DJ Reader, that's who it is.
Oh yes, yes.
DJ Hill, the other defensive tackle in Cincinnati.
Yep.
But yeah, Tyrese Stevenson kind of gives me those DJ Reader kind of feelings. Really dominant, and it is at Tulsa, so keep in mind the level of competition he's playing.
Right.
But when I was watching him last year, he stood out amongst really everyone on his team. And that's significant to me because that same Tulsa defense had a first-round pick on that defense last year with Zaven Collins, who the Cardinals took. And
Yeah.
I think Stevenson's dominance in the trenches really let Collins shine as a linebacker.
Kind of like how Vea did for White in 2020.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. From what I remember, he's just kind of, like you said, he'd be a Vita Vea backup. He's kind of in there. He can hold his own, strong, big guy who can kind of eat space and create gaps for his linebackers to kind of go in and do work. So that's an interesting one, though. I might have to check him out in the next couple of days.
And the Bucks need that depth because right now all they have for the defensive line is Vita Vea, William Golston, and Raheem Nunez-Roches. And if you keep Roches...
I think they brought Pat O'Connor back, too.
Oh, they did. I forgot that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, another Michigan directional school representative on the team. I love to see it. But that's still only 4 guys. And we talk all the time about what an irreplaceable player Vita Vea is just because of what he brings and making everyone around him better. And you just don't find guys who are that size.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrese Stevenson is that kind of size. And I don't think he's as good as Vea by any means. But if he needs a break, if he needs a couple of plays off, if you're going goal line sets, how would you like that 700-pound wall of nose tackles? If, heaven forbid, Vea gets hurt like he did in the Bucs Super Bowl year, that would be a nice guy to come in and spell him for a couple of games.
Yeah. Ideally, he doesn't get hurt, but like you said, we definitely do need depth in that place. So we do have limited day 3 picks this year as it stands right now. So it will definitely be interesting to see how the team kind of addresses that. Do they go – because we expect them to take an interior lineman in the first couple rounds, right? But if they do, when will they address it again? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about Stevenson? I have another name that I just remembered.
No, who you got?
I don't know if you've watched him, Matthew Butler from Tennessee.
I've watched him a little when he was at the Shrine game. I was kind of doing some prep work for that.
Yeah.
I thought he was okay. I thought he was more impressive during his time at the Shrine game.
Yeah, I would say the word okay is pretty good. This is day 3 for sure. But I think this is a guy who can comes in as definitely a backup. Hopefully Sue would come back or they draft a guy to kind of be in front of him. But this is a guy that I think with enough like development could become a starter, like a not a high tier starter, but just like a serviceable starter, obviously replacement level. But say the Bucks don't, uh, for some reason, drafted interior defensive lineman in the first 2 days of the draft. Um, this could be a guy that they can kind of like see and be like, yeah, this could be someone we mold to our scheme, fit our style of play, come in and take over for Ndamukong Suh, who is like could have retired 5 times in the last 2 years. Like it's crazy, but that's just a name I wanted to bring up.
I think he's an interesting name. I like him, and I think in my perfect world, the Bucks definitely address defensive tackle in round 1 or round 2.
I would agree. Yeah.
I think after the top couple of guys in Davis, Jones, Wyatt, and then a tier below that, Winfrey, the defensive tackle group gets really dicey.
Real quick, in that kind of second tier, a name that has fallen a bit from the start of the year. This was a guy that people had like top 10 overall. This is a guy who's going to, you know who I'm talking about. He's going to fit that kind of similar mold of a player as Winfrey, is DeMarvin Leal from Texas A&M. What are your thoughts on him?
I don't view him as a 3-tech. I don't like him kind of between the tackles.
Yeah, he's definitely. This is like you can play. This is, I don't think, a player that the Bucks would target because I don't think he's going to be a 3-4 player. If he is, you're playing him at 5. But
if the Bucks were looking to replace Will Golston as opposed to Ndamukong Suh, he would definitely be on my radar as a big edge.
But I definitely don't think they're looking to replace Will Golston. That guy is a stud. Yeah.
And he's low cost. He's one of the veterans on this team. He's been here forever.
Yep.
And really, we're not trying to replace anyone we have. We're trying to bring bodies in here.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like all offseason, we've just heard Jason Light be like, we like who we got. We're just trying to add. Really, that's kind of all it is. And if there's like 2 positions that, in my opinion, stick out like a sore thumb that they currently don't really got anybody. And one of them is D-line, specifically 3-tech. So.
Yeah. And I think there's really only 3 names, the 3 that we discussed in terms of Wyatt, Jones, and Winfrey, who really fit the bill, who could come in and start next year and make an impact.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if Wyatt's there in round 1, I truly, truly think that'll be the pick.
I would agree with that. He was my top target on the Bucks shortlist when I wrote my article the other day. Mm-hmm. And I think he is kind of their dream scenario.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I mean, I remember, I think it was Bruce Arians at the Combine was kind of talking about the player, the mold they're looking at. Or maybe it was, I don't know, it was some interview. And he was like, gap shooter. And while Bruce Arians isn't the head coach anymore, that is something that he's going to say that from meetings and stuff he's heard with the scouting staff, the coaching staff, Jason Light. This team's going to be looking for a gap shooter, and I truly think Devontae Wyatt is going to be the guy that fits the bill the most.
Do you think he will be there?
Ooh.
I know at this point in the process we've read 100 mock drafts, and he's one of those borderline players.
It feels like 50-50, honestly.
Especially with the teams ahead of them. Like, I think Dallas would really like them. I think the Bills would really like him.
Yep.
It's hard to say how the NFL gauges Wyatt.
It's very tough because, like, defensive tackle is one of those positions that you have a mold, and if, like, you don't fit the mold, you like, looking at the, let's see, who were the team? The Cowboys?
I think they might be interested, yeah.
I think they'd be interested, but are they going to take him over, say, Treylon Burks or Zion Johnson if he's there?
I don't think so.
Right? The other team was who'd you say, the Bills, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's hard to say with the Bills because I know they need a corner, but they never get a corner.
But they always draft D-line.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, they've drafted that
always.
D-line 2 or 3 straight years.
Yeah, and last year they picked 2 straight. They picked Rousseau and then Boogie Basham, like back to back, pretty much, which is insane. But it's tough. I mean, there's a lot of team. Even say we think Jordan Davis is gone in the top 15, the Ravens at like 16. That's a threat to take Devontae Wyatt right there because they need D-line help. I know they really think their secondary struggles were a side effect of injuries, which it could be the case, but they definitely need D-line help despite bringing back Calais Campbell. That's
The
a threat.
Chargers could be in play.
Chargers are a threat. The Patriots are a threat. Like, there's a lot of teams in between, like, whenever Jordan Davis goes off the board and the Bucks. I think
I was going to say that's not even including the teams that could jump up with, say, a team like Tennessee.
Exactly.
Who I expect to take a guy, someone random, like
they're going to take like Trevor Penning.
Yeah,
or Tyler Smith.
Tyler Smith is so on brand.
Yeah. Penning won't be there. They'll take Tyler Smith.
But if a team like the Jaguars want to jump up with them and, oh, hey, we'll get a young pass rusher on our defensive line. That's
it's a tough one. It's a tough question to answer because there are so many as everyone knows, there's so many possibilities that could happen in the draft, and banking on one player being at one pick that late is definitely not something you should get your hopes up for. I'm saying if you're like slamming the table, like Devontae Wyatt or bust, cool your jets, because there's a somewhere between a 40 and 50% chance that he won't be there, but also there's a 50 to 60% chance that he will be there for the Bucks. So
let me paint you a scenario. Would you rather the Bucks get Devontae Wyatt at 27, which I know is your top option?
Yeah.
Or the Bucks trade back to 32, draft Travis Jones, and get an early third-round pick?
I would take that option.
You take Jones in the
pick? I mean, like I said, I think Wyatt's a good player. Jones is not far behind him, and while I don't think he's like the perfect mold, you bank on traits with defensive line all day, and if you're able to snag another third-round pick, Jones, I would take Jones in the third.
I would too, and for me, I'll switch it Jones at 27 because he's higher for me, and Wyatt at the third.
Yeah.
I think recuperating some of that draft capital, which I know Light will probably want to do.
Probably.
There's going to be good players at the top of the third. That's not far from 60 when the Bucks are picking their second-round pick.
Yeah, this draft, not the greatest at the top end, but the depth is really, really nice. There's a lot of players who are going to be there in the late second, early third round, going into the fourth round, who are going to be starting in the NFL in either this year or 2 years from now. Like, it's going to be I think it's going to be a really solid draft, and people are going to look back and be like, man, why didn't we draft that player in the third round, you know?
Mm-hmm. The Chris Godwins of the world.
Exactly. And I feel like there's a good number of wide receivers that could actually make that people say that, man, this is this year's Chris Godwin, or this is this year's Cooper Kupp. I mean, probably won't be as good as Cooper Kupp, let me say, but yeah.
And looking at the top, who we expect to be there at the back end of the second, top of the third, that could be your starting guard, your Sean Ryan.
Yeah.
And it could be your starting tight end, a guy like Trey McBride. They both are reasonably kind of that range.
Yeah. I was thinking about it. I fully expect interior defensive line, defensive tackle to be one of our first 2 picks. The other, it's tough.
I think it's just going to depend on how things break.
It will, and I don't want to talk too much about it because next week's episode is going to be a lot of fun, kind of relating more to that. But yeah.
Any final thoughts before we kind of preview the next week's episode, because we got a big show coming next week?
We do. It's not a good D-line class. Got to do it. Got to attack it early. That's kind of my parting note.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's really, I don't want to say it's 27 or bust, because there's a pathway to win free at 60, but it feels like it has to be in the first round they address it.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Next week, we are recording early. We're recording Monday, so we can get some time before the draft. Kind of give us.
Will it be live again?
Yes, we're going to be going live. I think from here on out, if we can.
Yep. We'll be pushing that, so keep an eye out.
We are also going to be featuring the first guest here on the Creamsicle Chronicles podcast, and I'm really excited to have him on. I will kind of leave it as a tease for now, but I think he's one of the better unsung Bucks writers out there.
He's really good.
Someone whose work I've been following for a little while now, and I'm really excited for more people to kind of get eyes on his work. And he's gotten a new gig lately, and I think it's going to give him a lot more exposure. And this is something that's well earned, and I'm excited to have him on our podcast.
Me too. It should be a lot of fun. Are we gonna say what we're doing, or are we gonna leave that up for another surprise?
Oh yes, people will want to tune in.
Oh yeah.
We are all going to give our 7-round Bucks mock draft. We're each going to individually run through the simulator, make our own picks the way we would make them, kind of with that Bucks scope in mind. I don't think either of us are going to necessarily go anything too crazy. I think what we think the Bucks need, the Bucks think they need.
This will be a predictive mock. Well, if we're going to put ourselves in the shoes of Jason Light, given all the information we know to be public and that we've heard, and we're going to try and make picks as accurately as we can.
Yep. And I'm also going to get your top 5 dream picks for the Bucks and our guest top 5 dream picks for the Bucks.
Yeah.
And we'll see how our 3 collective boards kind of stack up against each other. Having previewed all these positions, it's kind of who are our guys.
Yeah. Man, draft season's my favorite season of the year. I can't wait for this. I can't wait for y'all to come back, listen. Hopefully there's more people here with us live next week on Monday. I think we should. I think we're also going to try and do a reaction episode after the draft. Get that out early the next week as well. But very, very excited. This is a good time of year.
That reaction episode, good or bad, is going to be so emotional for me.
Oh, man.
If you could have talked to me after day 2 of the draft last year, it was burn this franchise to the ground. This is a disgrace. I hate this team.
I like the first round pick. The Trask pick ruined me. I was oh, man.
Because then it was just a domino effect. You picked a player who I don't think is going to bring anything to our team instead of a lot of guys I thought could have been contributors.
Yep.
And then you picked Robert Hainsey when I thought they could have got better guard prospects, center prospects at 64, and it's just a domino effect of getting lesser players from then on out.
It was tough. It was not the best.
And then it's a whole thing of we could have had St. Brown. We could have drafted him last year at the back end of the 3rd, and he was a top 5 receiver for me. Guess what team needs a receiver all of a sudden? And guess who's become one of the best young slot players in the NFL?
I mean, do we need a receiver?
The Bucks seem to think we do.
You're right. They do seem to think we do. But yeah.
But we could have had Amon-Ra St. Brown taking every single Tyler Johnson rep, and it would have been beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
We could be Super Bowl champions right now.
Oh, man.
But
hindsight's 2020.
It's a new draft. It's going to be a good draft. I'm excited for it.
Hey, I trust Jason Light.
Yes, he's earned our
trust. Everyone has a hiccup. He has not disappointed me. Like, even if he has a bad draft, he makes moves in the offseason that are making up for it. I haven't had a reason to doubt that guy since 2016. So,
of all the teams I follow, he's got to be the second best GM out there.
Yeah, he's great. Who's the first?
That would be one Steven Eiserman.
Ah, yes. Okay, I know him very well too, and he is quite tremendous.
Everything he touches turns to gold. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. You're all winning a cup within 10 years, I promise.
Oh yeah, we have 2 legitimate Calder Cup Rookie of the Year candidates.
I know
Probably
this isn't a hockey pod, but Moritz Seider is disgusting.
And we
so
got
good.
another one coming next year. Another
Crazy.
Mo Seider, Simon Edvinsson. It's going to be good.
It's crazy. All right,
All
man.
right. Last thoughts, anything before we log out here?
Nothing really. Looking forward to next week's episode. I think JT is too. I'm gonna be really pumping that up, trying to get people hyped for it. Hopefully we could get a good number of people in here to chat ball with us, kind of give us their thoughts on our mocks, yell at us, praise us, whatever they want to do. Excited to have our guest on. I think y'all will really, really enjoy it.
All right, with that, he's Garrett Ballard. Follow him at NFL Ballard on Twitter. I'm JT Olson. Follow me at Icewater Olson. We are part of the Around the Block Sports Network. Catch us on YouTube. Catch us on Spotify. We will see you next week. Y'all take care.
See y'all.